everybody. Welcome back to this edition of Quick Strikes on the Bay Bolts channel. My name is Michael Wax, joined as always with my co-host Jake Ricker. Jake, I don't know if you can tell by the red I'm wearing, I'm becoming a Detroit Red Wings fan. I'm jumping off the Lightning bandwagon because how dare the Lightning drop their second game in 21 meetings dating back to 2015 against the Detroit Red Wings? How dare they?
Blow it all up, Michael. Trade everybody. Just tank the season. Forget it. It's over. No, we're obviously kidding a lot because this. Listen, this was a tough game. This is a bummer to lose, especially when you're losing to the Red Wings because they're not the best team in the league for obvious reasons. But you know, I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this game. There's obviously some negatives as we always talk about, but for the most part, the Lightning really didn't play that bad of a game. It was just one of those games where they were extremely unlucky. There were some things that didn't go their way, but listen, if there's any team that knows how to bounce back from losses, it's the Lightning. And their next game is going to be against the Nashville Predators, who are currently in a downward spiral right now. So expect the Lightning to come out really strong in their next game. But let's talk about this game that we just played and what was some of the positives and negatives from this game.
Yeah, I thought for starting off, at least for me, I thought Braden Point was absolutely fantastic tonight. One of the things that I talked about during the game was that even though the Lightning were down at that time, I think it was 4-2 or 5-2, Braden Point didn't think the game was over. And it was evident by the fact that he scored the 5-3 goal and the 5-4 goal. But every shift, he really came out and made sure that the Lightning were in the offensive zone, or if they weren't, he pushed them into the offensive zone. He used his speed. He's one of the fastest players in the NHL. You know, he's right up there with players like Connor McDavid. And, you know, Connor McDavid's a bit of a stretch because McDavid has that edge in terms of being able to use his edges. But Brain Point is just as fast north south, and he used that to his advantage the entire game, but more specifically towards the end, he really gave the Lightning a chance to win.
No question about it. Braden Point is a guy who is extremely dedicated to his game, and it just seems like every night he's always giving 100% of his effort, which is something you love to see. Michael, if you ask me, maybe, however long down the road, he's a future captain. I think that's a future captain in the making in Braden Point. And another guy that I think deserves a big shout out tonight is Andre Palat. He played a fantastic game tonight, had 3 assists in this game, was making a lot of plays. He's been so good this season. I'm so happy for him. He's having one of his best seasons. It's almost too bad that it's only a 56 game season, as he'll have a much harder time breaking his career records, which he still might do in a 56 game season. But he played really, really good tonight. Also, I think Steven Stamkos played a fantastic game tonight. There are a lot of players that played really good games. We'll get into some of the players that had some bad games just a second here, but Steven Stamkos was fantastic on the face-off circle, and really happy with his performance tonight. And shout out to him for making sure that that penalty was reviewed at the end of the game because he did not want to let Larkin get away with that call, which was crazy because he was right. It definitely wasn't a high sticking call, which it ended up not really mattering at the end of the day, but really good day for Steven Stamkos. He definitely gave Lightning a chance to win that game.
Yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of the players on the Lightning had a really good, solid game. And full credit, I think we should mention to Jonathan Bernier. He was absolutely fantastic in net. 40 of 44. He made some unbelievable saves. And he did get helped out a couple of times by the post, which you could say for both the goalies, but one of them made the saves when it counted. Now, let's go into the negatives, Jake. I know there's a lot to get into in this game in terms of fans just screaming that the season might be over. But one of the things that was kind of concerning before we get to the goalie struggles was Jan Ruda. And you mentioned before we started recording that Jan Ruda's actually had a pretty decent couple of games over the past few, whether it's Eric Chernak being out or the team at full strength on the right side. And tonight, he just did not have it. Constant turnovers, constant misassignment. He didn't pick up Larkin on that second goal. He ran over McElhaney on that third goal. He had a turnover on the fourth goal. He was on the ice for the fifth goal. It was just a really bad night for Jan Ruda, which again, we don't expect this to continue, but it's definitely something that the Lightning might want to look at in strengthening the right side of the defense.
Yes, this was by far Ruda's worst game of the season. Maybe even go far to say the worst game of his career, but definitely a very, very bad night for him. And listen, just as you said, I mentioned before, he's been playing really good this season. In fact, right up before he got hurt and missed a couple of games, he was playing some of his best hockey. So, and you've got to understand that these games are going to happen, which is why I often get frustrated with Lightning fans that tend to freak out very quickly because they're just not used to this. Lightning have been winning a lot in the last couple of years. Like they had a 62 win season just a couple years ago. We just won the Stanley Cup. So I think people kind of get too used to playing really good, and these games are going to happen. I mean, heck, look at Detroit. This was what, their 8th win on the season, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's going to be, you're going to have these types of games. It's going to happen. The key is, as I mentioned time and time again, can the players adjust and get back to where they were? I fully expect Ruda to do that. But you are right. I think it is important for the Lightning to look at that right side because it's one of the weakest points of this team. And I don't know how they're going to be able to make it out to work with the cap situation that we're in because we still don't have a ton of money to work with. Maybe one player ends up going away, like a Tyler Johnson or Alex Killorn. I don't know how that would all work out. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on because that, when one player on that right side starts to struggle, that whole side just kind of falls apart because there's just not a ton of depth there. So definitely something I hope they do look into. But at least for today's game, Ruda struggled, but I fully expect him to be able to bounce back because he has been playing well this season for the most part.
Yeah, and I think one big up to John Cooper, which is someone that we don't really talk about in terms of positive or negative, but John Cooper saw after I believe it was the fourth or the fifth goal. It's tough to say who's on the ice at what point, but he looked at Jan Rud and said, "You just don't have it tonight." Jan Rud played the least amount of minutes on anyone on the right hand side. He played the least amount of any defenseman, which goes to show you that number one, you're letting the other people take control, like Hedman, Sergachev, McDonough. Cal Foot played more than Jan Ritter, which is something that we don't normally see, and Eric Chernak as well. But big ups to Cooper for realizing that tonight what just wasn't his night, and he made the change, and it was necessary change. As far as the
Well, real quick, Michael, I don't mean to interrupt you though, but also shout out to John Cooper. I think he made the right call on challenging that goal as well. Obviously, when you don't win a goaltender interference call, you end up on a penalty, which is a big thing that they made a change a couple of years ago. I think it was absolutely the right call to challenge that. Honestly, I'm surprised that that goal stood there. It definitely did look like Ruda was the most of the contact into McElhinney, but McElhinney made that save initially and was definitely pushed in, which is very frustrating, especially this came down to one goal at the end of the day here too. So, and I think I can't remember who the Detroit player was, but it looked like he definitely had his stick in there that may have pushed McElhinney. So I'd love to hear from you guys what you think in the comments below. If you think that should have been overturned, I think it probably should have been. But also to Cooper's credit, I think it was the right decision to challenge that.
Yeah, and it's not always John Cooper that makes those decisions. We talk about Nigel Kerwin all the time, his fantastic challenging abilities. So if he saw something, the Lightning are very selective with their challenges. If he saw something, he's going to challenge it. And the way that I looked at it was, I don't know if it's going to get overturned or not because I'm seeing conflicting sides on this, like on Twitter or on Instagram or wherever people are talking about the game. People said, that could get overturned, that could stay a goal. So it really is not surprising that it didn't get overturned. You have to have really conclusive evidence
And it
to
was called a
overturn it.
goal on the ice too.
And it
So
was called a goal on the ice. But it was really unfortunate. And, Jan Ruda was one of those players that was involved. The other one we'll get to now. And, you know, I love the fact that our fan base is so passionate, but I think you all need to lay off of Curtis McElhaney a little bit. Jake, are you ready to possibly get flamed for defending Curtis McElhaney, or do I have to do this myself?
listen, I'm pretty indifferent with Curtis McElhaney. I think he definitely gets a lot more hate than he deserves. Again, it goes back to, I think Lightning fans are just used to Vasilevsky being the best goaltender in the NHL all the time. So when you have these, these tough games like this, they start to freak out a little bit. I think, like for example, obviously on that goal there where McElhaney was run into by Ruda, wasn't really his fault. The defense definitely didn't play their best game tonight, so you got to give them a little. But there were some goals here. Detroit figured out that they knew that they could pick on that high short side, and McElhaney had a very hard time stopping those. And there's a couple that maybe he should have had. He's got to be a little bit better, but I don't think, he's the worst goaltender in the world. I saw someone on Twitter, and I'll try to put it up on screen if I find it and give credit to that person, but they said that they don't think there's many backup goaltenders out there that could give this team a better chance to win than Vasi ever does. So, is there another backup goaltender the Lightning could go out there and get, and it would completely change the game for the Lightning? Because remember, at the end of the day, Vass is going to be the one playing in the playoffs. And now, if he gets hurt, that's a completely different story. But listen, tough game for McElhaney. It was just a tough game all around for the Bolts. He definitely needs to be better, but I don't think there's be as much hate going towards him as there typically is, at least on Twitter from what I see. A lot on Facebook as well. I know that place can be kind of crazy sometimes, but it's tough. Maybe the Lightning will look into it at the trade deadline. I don't know. I don't expect them to make a big change. And also, to anybody that thinks that this is John Cooper's fault for not playing Vasilevsky, that's just outright crazy, because Vasilevsky needs his rest too. You kind of let these both guys play occasionally. So that's just crazy.
So to attack the end points of that, one thing that I did think was a little bit weird is we talk all the time about giving Vasilevsky rest. And one of the things that we saw at the end of, or a couple of games ago, was the Vasilevsky didn't even dress. They had Chris Gibson as the backup, which honestly, I was really surprised that the Lightning didn't do that again if they wanted to give Vasilevsky some full rest and recovery, because, like you mentioned, John Cooper is not going to put in Vasilevsky no matter what in this game against Detroit. And Eric Erlinson was repeating this over and over and over again to fans on Twitter. I was surprised that Vasilevsky was even the backup tonight. I would have thought that they would have put in Spencer Martin, and maybe, if Curtis gets hurt or if Curtis allows way too many goals, you put in Spencer Martin and see what you have. It's really a situation where I'm probably thinking about it too much, if I'm being honest with myself. But that was one thing that I found a little bit interesting to me. But you're exactly right. I think at the end of that first period, I looked at it and I go, well, there were 3 goals. And if I'm being honest, I don't think McElhaney was at fault for any of them. The first goal was a beautiful shot. The second one was a horrific read by Jan Ruda, not noticing that the fastest player on the ice is on the ice. And the third one is Jan Ruda bumping into Curtis McElhaney. But that second period, he really needed to be better, and he wasn't. And I think at the and with hindsight, that cost the Lightning the game. When you look at it, the game was already 5-2 at that point. The game was pretty much over, even though no lead is safe with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
True.
So overall, Lightning probably need to be better when it comes to playing around McElhaney. You heard Steven Stamkos and Andre Palat talk about how they had way too many defensive turnovers and they didn't help McElhaney, and that is true to an extent. But at the end of the day, Mac had to be better tonight, and he just wasn't. But you can't expect him to be good every single game. I do wonder if this is going to be another thing that the Lightning look at for the trade deadline. But again, that is way far away from here in a couple of weeks.
And the other important thing too is you got to remember, again, as I mentioned this before, the Lightning don't have a ton of cap space to work with, so they can't just go out and get somebody if they want to. It's going to take a lot to make it work. We saw how tough it was even to try and move Johnson out in the offseason when they tried to do that in the first place. So don't expect the Lightning to make a move. If we are able to, it'd be nice, and maybe they can get something to work, but I don't think it should be expected.
Yeah, exactly. And Again, we'll get there when we get there. That trade deadline is like, I think, a month away at this point, probably a little bit more than a month away. And, we'll have trade deadline videos with ideas from either ourselves or the fans. We did a mock trade video, which, Jake, hopefully you'll link in the top right hand corner, of what fans would propose to either make the team better in a joking way or make the team better in an actually serious way. So, there's a lot of speculation in terms of how you can make the Lightning better. And I think at the end of the day, that is all the Lightning fans want, is that they want to make the team better in whatever way is possible. And, sometimes that means taking as much liberty as you want with Curtis McElhaney and Jan Ruda, which tonight, they were the two biggest people that you could say, well, okay, we're going to pin the loss on you. Overall, it's not that big of a deal because, again, this was the second loss from the Lightning in 21 meetings against the Red Wings and the first regulation loss in those 21 meetings. So this is probably just an anomaly. It's a one off, it's no big deal.
And the first loss in 9 regulation games on this season too. They had a 9-game point streak going right now, so it's not a big deal. It's a bummer. It was a tough game, but at the end of the day, it's a blip in this entire season. Another thing I think we need to talk about too before we get off to maybe a couple more positives, because we don't like to end on negatives ever. Because but the power play was 1 for 6 tonight, I believe, at the end of the day. Which wasn't fantastic. Obviously, you want that to be a lot better. However, again, this kind of goes back to what we've been talking about all season. The power play was really good and on a really good streak coming into tonight. They put up a stat on the TV, and I just missed it. I tried to take a picture of it, so I had it, but unfortunately, it got away from me just in time. But they were playing really good coming in tonight, and Andre Palat had been fantastic on the power play. They did have a power play goal tonight, which is still good. So, but definitely wasn't the best tonight, and that could have potentially helped them get out of the funk that they were in and possibly tie the game. But that's all speculation. So I think the power play just had kind of an off night tonight, because for the most part they have been really good coming into this game so far. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust into this next game as they get set to take on the Nashville Predators now back at home. Also, Michael, too, the Lightning have played a ton of games in a row here. I don't remember the exact number, but they have not had 2 nights off in a very long time and still won't have 2 nights off for a while upcoming here. It's nice that they're going to be coming home. They just finished up this road trip now. So these guys are tired as well. It's obviously don't want to make up excuses for losses, but I think that is something to consider as well.
Yeah, this was a game where, not for some players like Braden Point and Yanni Gore, because they're always energetic and they're always wanting the team to win. But you could tell with some guys that it was very difficult for them because they have played a lot of games in a lot of nights. And even the rookies, you look at someone like Cal Foote or Ross Colton, who got into the game today, they're not used to the Lightning having this stretch. When they were in the AHL, they played maybe 3 games in 3 nights, but then they would have the rest of the week off. Here, they're playing every day, every 2 days. There's back to backs involved, and they're not really accustomed to that type of schedule yet. So I think that this series is really helpful for them to sort of get used to that, whether it is Foot or ABB or Colton, or hopefully coming into the lineup soon, Taylor Radish, who got called up to the taxi squad. I would love to see Taylor Radish get into a game very soon. But Jake, you mentioned that we want to end this game, recap on a positive as we always do. There were a lot of positives from this game, but I think the biggest one in terms of telling how the game script went was the Lightning outshot the Red Wings by attempts 80-33. This is courtesy of Eric Erlinson at Lightning Insider on Twitter. And the 33rd shot attempt for the Red Wings was the empty net goal. So the Lightning outshot attempt the Red Wings 80-32 this game. They really controlled play. I think that is the thing that a lot of Lightning fans need to take out of this, is that the Lightning really did control this game and they just came up short.
They did. They had a ton of chances, especially in that third period there. They just kept on pushing and pushing, and they just had some bad puck luck, if you will, and weren't able to get it done at the end of the day. And those, like we said, those games are going to happen. They were very good tonight. There's no question about that. And I fully expect them to be right back into the swing of things and back in the win column when they take on the Nashville Predators. My last positive I'm going to end on, Michael, is that a little shout out to the Detroit Red Wings and the horn operator because they got the horn fixed tonight. So that was awesome. No horn going off in that game. I know it was just broken. They obviously got it fixed, but ending on a little bit of a comedy note tonight because I know this was a tough night for a lot of Lightning fans.
Yeah, very happy to hear that that is fixed in the Little Caesars Arena. Also, two other things: the face-offs were fantastic, 60.6%, and the penalty kill was great as always, limiting the Red Wings to 0 goals on 4 opportunities.
Michael, you know what I find funny is that when we finally get a good face-off percentage, we actually lose the game. So maybe we should keep doing worse on face-offs. Is that how that works?
I think so. I think the Lightning are just better when they chase the puck and not when they have it.
Apparently.
Jake, anything else for us on this unfortunate but understandable loss?
I think that just about sums it up. I'm looking forward to this next game against the Nashville Predators coming up here. And we're going to have fans back in the building, Michael, which is super, super exciting. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there, but hopefully I'll be able to get to a game back soon. Very excited for that. I believe banner raising is going to be happening on Saturday as well. So looking forward to that. It'll be nice to have some actual fans back in the arena and cheering on the guys back, the team back at home in Amley Arena. So looking forward to all of that. Be on the lookout for some videos about that stuff. Hopefully get some new exciting content your way now that we can get back inside the arena once again.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for watching. That is going to do it for us on this edition of Quick Strike. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Ring that bell for notification. Comment down below what you thought about this game, what you liked, what you didn't like. Tell us how we're just a bunch of idiots that don't know what we're talking about because the Lightning lost their first of 21 matchups in regulation against the Detroit Red Wings. Also, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all our social media profiles at Bay_Balt. Also, make sure to check out the blog page itself at the Puck Network. We are the subsection Bay Balt. We recently had an article done about the Tampa Bay Lightning's rookies and how they performed this season. Big ups to John for that fantastic article. It will be down in the description below. But for Jake Recker, I'm Michael Wax. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, despite the loss, the Tampa Bay Lightning are still defending Stanley Cup champions.
Go Bolts.